Does the DNT the One truly beat optics that are 3 times the price? No, but it is a fantastic value. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Shoot More. If you're new, welcome. If you've seen some of the other videos and you're not yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. It truly is a great time to be getting into long range shooting. There's a ton of solid budget gear that's punching above its price point, and the DNT the One is one of the newest entries into that market. Before we get into this review, just to make sure we're all on the same page, DNT did reach out to me and send me this scope for testing and evaluation. No money has changed hands. There's no expectations for what I'm going to say, so all these opinions are my own, as they would be if I bought the product itself. So what's the TLDR? I think if you're trying to hit that sub $800 price point, you should definitely check out the DNT the One. Under the right circumstances, it does punch above its weight class, but it's not perfect. The image does wash out quicker in Mirage. The Eyebox does get a little bit tight on the high end. The image in the scope itself loses a little sharpness around the edges, but the reticle, the turrets, and the rest of the controls are absolutely dialed, and that's not something that you always get with a budget optic. So who is this for? I think if you're just getting into PRS or long range shooting and you're trying to stick to a budget, this is definitely right up your alley and something you need to look at. I also think this would have a good place on a backup rifle or loaner rifle, something that you can hand to somebody knowing that there's a chance it's going to hit the dirt at some point and you're not going to be totally destroyed when that happens. But if you're looking to shoot a lot of national level competitions, looking for the best glass and the best features, I don't think this is for you, but that shouldn't really be a surprise given the price point that this optic comes in at. So what does it do well? I think the biggest gripe that I had with Arkin's EP5 was the reticle. I really wanted to see finer subtension so that you're not guessing where your wind hold is. We really got that with this Tor reticle. The other thing that I was really impressed with by this scope is it's got illumination and it's not terrible. Most of the budget scopes that I've had that have illumination, there's a lot of spill when you get to some of those higher levels. So I need to jump in here for a second. As I'm editing this, I'm realizing there's 2 things that I didn't talk about specifically when I filmed, and they're both pros, and I want to make sure that they're highlighted. The first is the internal elevation of the scope. This thing has a ton of internal elevation adjustment. The rail on my RimX is a 40 MOA rail, and the cantilever mount the scope's in is a 20 MOA mount as well. So that's 60 MOA of cant in the mounts, then I was still able to zero the scope without issue. The second thing I want to call out is how well this scope handles chromatic aberration. We'll talk about glass quality and image quality throughout the rest of the video, but specifically I want to call out that the glass in this scope handles chromatic aberration very well, especially given the price point. I've had scopes that have cost 3 times as much money, looking at you, Burris XTR Pro, and the entire image just has a purple and green tinge because everything that you're looking at has just an insane amount of chromatic aberration. That was not my experience at all with the DNT. I'll go ahead and put the video up here, but even when I went to the range to shoot the actual shooting portion of this video, it was pretty hot in direct sunlight by this portion of the day, and as you can see on the white target there's a little bit of fringing, but it's not bad at all. So I was very impressed with how the scope has handled chromatic aberration, and I wanted to make sure to call that out. Honestly, the best part I think about this is the turrets. They're very crisp, there's no slop, the zero stop system is super easy to adjust, and they use a Torx bit for the screws themselves, so you're not dealing with super small Allens that like to round out. I don't know why it's taken the scope industry so long to start to adopt Torx bits instead of Allens, but I'm so glad to see that that's starting to be a thing. As far as the turrets themselves, the knurling feels good. It's not overly aggressive, but I also don't feel like my hand's slipping on them when I'm trying to turn them. And the tension on them is, well, they're a little tight, to be honest with you, but they feel very smooth, which is not something you always get with budget scopes. Sometimes they feel like got sand in them, and these do not feel like that at all. So what's holding this thing back? I think for one, the Eyebox does get tight after about 20. To be expected, I think a lot of scopes tighten up once you get to the higher end of the zoom range. The other thing I think with this, and arguably it should have been first, but the image washes out quicker in Mirage, and I think that's really where the higher end optics kind of distance themselves from the budget offerings. They've got better glass, they've got better coatings, and they're able to punch through that Mirage better. The other thing that I think is holding this back is it gets a little soft on the edges, and that's just the nature of the beast. You run into this a lot with budget camera lenses, ironically enough. The sharpness in the center of the image is really good, but as you start to get to the outer edges, they just get softer. It's held true for the scopes as well. But I do want to point out, it's not bad. I think probably 70% of the visual viewing area when you're looking down the scope is totally usable. It's just when you start to get out to the fringes, you really kind of see some weird stuff going on when it's miragey and the image gets a little bit soft. So how does this stack up compared to some of the other scopes that I've shot? I mentioned this earlier, but comparing it to the Arken EP5, the Gen 1, I've not shot the Gen 2, but I'm pretty sure the Gen 2 is the same scope with just a different reticle. For the Gen 1, this thing crushes it. I did not like the Gen 1 EP5. The image quality was gross. There was no contrast. Everything, I felt like I was looking at a gray image. I didn't like it. The turrets were great. I hated the reticle. I wasn't a fan. This, much better. The image in this is bright, it's clear, it's contrasty, you've got a good resolution, and it's colorful. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've liked about this is you look at this and you're not just looking at like a whitewash image. It's got color and it's got contrast, and that's something that you don't always get with budget scopes. So comparing it to my Burris XTR3 at 16x magnification, the Burris was a good bit ahead of the image quality of this scope. Not to say that this was bad, but that Burris just absolutely crushes at 16x. Ironically, when you mag in further from 20x and beyond, they are pretty much neck and neck. The image quality in that Burris falls off really quickly once you start to get to higher magnification ranges. So I was expecting the DNT to kind of be similar, but it seems to hold the image quality more consistent throughout the zoom range. And lastly, when comparing it to the Strike Eagle 5-25, I don't think there's any comparison. The glass is better across the board. It's got better color, better contrast, better resolution. The turrets are better. They're not sloppy. I think warranty, Vortex probably has a leg up on the warranty. The DNT does have a lifetime warranty, but we all know how Vortex is with their warranty. It's no questions asked. You email them, they send you a shipping label, you send it in. You could have run it over with your truck. They don't care. If something happens with these, I'm sure DNT will take care of you, but Vortex, just from the reputation they have with the warranty, I'd have to give them the nod in that situation. So I think that's enough talking about specs. I want to take this thing to the range. We're going to put it on my RimX, and we're going to go shoot some targets. So we are out on the range with our DNT, the one. We're going to do a little bit of dry fire. That's not right. We're going to do a little bit of live fire here. We're just shooting SK rifle match. We're just going to start at 50 yards. Make sure our parallax is set. Hopefully it's set correctly on the camera. I did try and adjust the focus on the TriggerCam, so if it's off, I apologize. We have a slight right to left, impact, impact. So we're at 16x right now. Let's go ahead and head out to, let's go to 200. What do you say? We'll estimate 203 because they're a little long on these targets on the troop line. 200 yards. I might need to raise this bipod some. We're going to stay at 16x for right now, where it will favor right edge on target. Impact. One more. Low. I saw that. That was bottom edge. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in here. One thing that messes me up is the zoom direction on this scope is different. It's opposite than what I'm used to. Not a big deal. Still have a very clear image at, what is this, 30 power? 35 power. So we saw that was low. Let's go ahead and put at least a 1/10 inner for right now. Stand by. think that was waterline. Yep. So we'll call that 7.2 at 200. We'll just MV cal this profile real quick here. So let's go to 127. There's a little spinner there. It says 3. Sounds right. This ammo is a little bit slower. It is shooting, I think when I put it over the chrono this morning, about 1070. So that was 150. That is 125. Dope styled. Parallax is close. Honestly, I'm really impressed with the clarity of the glass in this scope. Impact. Showing a little more wind. I think that was favoring left edge on the impact. Impact. I can see the bullet fairly well. It is a dark bullet, so it's not like we're shooting Ely. But overall, I like the reticle. The hash marks are easy to differentiate between. It does get a little bit more confusing when you go from 1/10 to 2/10, because then it goes top, bottom, bottom, top of the line on the windage. Elevation looks like things stay pretty consistent there. So I've had some time with this scope now. I've taken it to different matches. I've not shot it in a match, but I've had the opportunity to get it next to higher quality glass in a multitude of different weather situations. Overall, I'm really impressed for what this thing costs. Is it the razor killer, night force killer that some people claim them to be? No, I don't think so. When you get into those situations where you've got a lot of mirage, this scope does seem to wash out quicker than some of the higher end scopes. But that's not to say that you can't shoot it. It's not to say that it's unusable. You just have an easier time seeing your impacts on targets further away in heavy mirage with those higher end scopes in general. Not to say that this is a bad scope at all. I actually really enjoy shooting this, and I'm hoping to keep it. I think it would go really well on that Howa outlier build we've got in 6 Creed. All right, 225-ish, guessing, sending. Impact. I think that was probably low. I didn't see it. We're gonna go ahead and punch in here. Again, I missed the, or I went the wrong direction on the zoom dial because I'm not used to that. Yeah, we're trending a little bit low. Maybe 3/10 off water line. We'll hold top of target. Oh, that was interesting. Our wind shifted? Maybe. So at the shooter, I'm getting a right to left. I'm seeing a little bit of a left to right out in the field in the mirage. So we've kind of got some switchy winds going on here today. Put a tent thinner, send another at the little guy. We are at, I think, 16x right now. Impact. Where was that? I don't know. It was not a center hit. We're hitting it, barely. I think that was right edge. Let's favor this side. There it was. All right, cool. So may not have needed that tent. So those last shots were at 35x. Let's go ahead and show you guys 7. I don't know how well this is gonna come across on the video itself. All right, so we're actually going to put this optic in a situation where I think a lot of the more budget optics struggle. Going from a very light foreground to a dark background, targets shot up a lot. There's dark dirt on the berm. It is 428 yards. We are 23.7, so that's 10, 20, 3, 5, 7. We'll start there. We are going to leverage the illumination on the reticle here. So that's 4, 5, 6. This is max brightness, and I think that's plenty right now. I don't know that I would call it completely daylight bright. I think that would be plenty usable. All right, I'm seeing a right to left mirage. Set our parallax accordingly. Going to hold 6/10 right. Just over it. We're going to reduce to 4/10. Hold a 1/10 down. All right, we're gonna drop 2/10 and then hold 4/10 right. That was the top of the burn. That didn't make any sense. I think we're running into issues with our ammo at this distance, but the important thing is I can see my misses, no problem. Top of the berm? That's wild. Okay, so do we need to come down? Let's come down. Unless it's hitting beneath the target and skipping up, but I don't think so. We came down to 22.5. Yeah, I'm wondering if it was skipping up. Oh no, I saw that. That was low. Go up to 23. Impact. 23 was a hit. 2/10 right. Well, we hit her once at least. So I think that does a good job of showing you that the illuminated reticle does come in handy when you get into those kind of high contrast situations. I don't know that you would really need it in a traditional field style match. It does kind of wash out a little bit in a bright situation, but it's not really when it's needed for. So, but I think that'll do it for our actual range time with this scope. Let's go ahead and jump back to the house and finish up. So we've talked a lot about the strengths, the weaknesses. You guys have seen what it looks like on camera at the range. If I were to offer recommendations to DNT and what I'd like to see improve, I think first and foremost would be better mirage performance and edge-to-edge clarity. I think some of that just goes along with just general glass quality, and maybe that wouldn't be possible at the price point it's at. Again, it's not bad. It is 100% completely useful, and I would shoot this in a match any day of the week. But if they really want to step things up to the next level, I think that's an easy win for them. Maybe not easy. That would be a win for them to help compete with optics at that next level. While I do personally like the Tor reticle with the Christmas tree, I know there's a lot of people that don't like shooting trees because there's just too much going on and they want a clearer field of view. So I think an easy win for DNT would to be keep the Tor reticle, just take the Christmas tree out. Keep the subtensions the same on the elevation and the windage, just take out all of the Christmas tree related stuff and offer that as a reticle as well. And you're gonna also start to cater to people that don't like those Christmas tree reticles at that point. Lastly, I think it's kind of a wish list item, but the MSRP on this scope unfortunately puts it out of range for being useful on most of the production builds for PRS. I'd love to see them find a way to be able to come down on that MSRP so that you could put this on like a CZ 457 American or something like that. I think this scope on a CZ would dominate production, but I don't know that we see a lot of them because the price point is higher and it's just going to push you over that price limit. Full disclosure, I do have to send this scope back. If you guys want to see this in more videos, go ahead and drop something in the comments. Let DNT know that you want the scope to stay, you want to see it in other videos, and maybe they will let it stay here. I'd really like to put this on my Howa build, actually. Howa Action 6 Creed outlier barrel, outlier chassis. This would be right at home on that rifle, but we'll see. Maybe they let it stick around. So final thoughts. Should you buy one? At under $700 as of the time of this filming, this is a really, really solid optic. The turrets are great. The reticle is awesome. The illumination is good. It's mostly daylight bright, except in the brightest situations. But when are you ever going to use a lit reticle in broad daylight? No, it's not going to replace super high-end glass like Razors and Night Forces and Zico. I'm not even going to compare this to a Zico. That's not fair. But what it does really well. It offers a lot of value for the price point that it's at. I think it crushes most, if not all, of the other scopes that come in at this price point. Overall, if you're a new shooter on a budget, if you're building a backup gun or a loaner to give to new people that you're trying to get into the sport, I think you should absolutely check out this optic. I will be honest, when they first reached out and asked me if I wanted to review this, I was a little apprehensive because I thought it was going to suck. I was not happy with some of the other Arkans that I've been behind. Even the EP5, like I mentioned, I just wasn't thrilled with it. But being able to get behind this one and take it to matches and test it side by side with other scopes, I'm impressed. I really am impressed. So I think that's going to do it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Again, make sure to leave a comment down below if you want this scope to stick around on the channel. Maybe DNT will let us keep it and we can put it on the Howa build. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you next time.